Love this man, love his work. It's must-read material every single Monday morning for football morning in America. Joining me here once again on NBC Sports on Peacock is a Hall of Famer. He is Peter King. How are you doing, Peter?
Hey, Rich, you know what was really, really fun in my column on Monday?
What's
and look,
that?
I get a kick out of these kind of football nerdy things. Going back and seeing how Cooper Kupp was scouted and finding out from Les Snead that his first encounter with Cooper Kupp was when he was a camper at the Peyton Manning, at the Manning Passing Academy in Thibodaux, Louisiana in 2015. I don't know. Those are things that are just so much fun that when you're just asking questions and talking to people, you discover little tiny factoids like that, and it just is a lot of fun. That led the Los Angeles Rams, then the St. Louis Rams, that led the Los Angeles Rams in 2017 in Sean McVay's first year to draft Cooper Kupp. Anyway,
no, Peter, I love Peter. Peter,
let you know one of the things that was fun for me this week.
I love stories like that, Peter. I mean, let's not forget that potentially the MVP for a fourth time in this league and back-to-back in this league was a quarterback at Butte College. And Jeff Tedford, the Cal coach, went to Butte College to look at a tight end there. And he's like, who's this quarterback that's here? And that's how Aaron Rodgers wound up at Cal. And we all know the rest is history. And there's so many stories like that. I love them. I absolutely love stories like that. You know,
and how about going back to the guy who preceded him to Brett Favre at Southern Miss, and 6 weeks before he starts his senior year at Southern Miss, he's in a horrible car wreck, gets 30 inches of his intestine removed.
Oh God!
He's playing with a bag, and he goes to Florida State. Was it Florida State? He went somewhere to some huge school and beat him. And it just, those are the kind of things that you sort of remember when you think about the really great players. Never mind Tom Brady lasting to the end of the sixth round,
right.
Behind Gio Carmazzi. 100 picks behind Gio Carmazzi, for crying out loud.
I know.
Anyway,
everyone's got a story. So you mentioned Kupp, Peter. Where do you stand on the concept of this now 17th regular season game and records that can be broken with a 17th regular season game? Especially, I saw the Patriots tweeted out that Mac Jones set the record for touchdown passes by a Patriots rookie, breaking Jim Plunkett's record. But somebody pointed out Plunkett did that in 14 regular season games, and Mac's done it in 16 with a 17th to boot. So there have been these asterisks for decades. I'm wondering about the newest one in your estimation, Peter.
Well, just as when Roger Maris hit his 61st home run, to surpass Babe Ruth in more than 154 games, which is how many games that Babe Ruth, that was the length of the season when Ruth hit 60. That's just the way a season is now. And mentally, you can have an asterisk about it because for 43 seasons, the NFL played 16 games. And I think it's beyond idiotic that they went to a 17th game when they're always screaming about player safety. But be that as it may, whatever a guy gets in a season, he got that in a season. And you can mentally think that if for some reason Cooper Kupp passes Michael Thomas or whatever records he sets, you ought to asterisk him. But, I'm probably not going to do that. I'm going to make a point that's just the way it is. There could be 17 games for the next 43 years. I doubt it, but there might be. And so I just think that's the way you have to do it.
Peter King here on the Rich Eisen Show. I guess I'll use the few good men phrasing. If Antonio Brown is no longer a Buck, then why hasn't he been cut so far? What do you make of this, Peter? What's happening?
The only thing I can make of it, Rich, and I've done zero reporting on this, but when I heard about this late yesterday, I said the Bucks are most likely consulting with the NFL about how to get out of his contract, get out of paying him, get out of trying to pay him the least amount of money that they can. And so I think it has something to do with that. Rich, I simply can't believe, as some have floated, that, hey, who knows, maybe some desperate team, knowing that it would only be for 3 or 4 weeks, might just bring him in for the rest of this year. And I just said, man, if I were an owner and my coach said, hey, I know this is a terrible idea and blah, 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 but, we could really use the help, the owner would say, let's start with your first sentence. This is a terrible idea, and we're not doing it. I hope nobody brings him in. Antonio Brown needs help, not another extension of his football career.
Well, I mean, what coach would do that, though? You know what I'm saying? Because just look at every single coach.
I can't think of one. I can't think of one. But if for some reason somebody would have that thought, it needs to be roundly disabused at the moment of conception of that thought.
Peter King here on the Rich Eisen Show. What is the Browns' plan, do you think, for Baker Mayfield, now that we've seen an absolute step back from last year with circumstances beyond Baker's control? We have no idea what did happen with Odell Beckham. We did see what Odell Beckham did for the Rams just last week in Baltimore. And, so what do you make of Baker Mayfield's future and what the Browns' plans for him might be?
I don't know what the Browns are going to do with Baker Mayfield, but I can tell you what is the only plan to me that makes any sense, and that is have him play next year at his $18.8 million one-year contract when they exercise the 50-year option on him. Have him play under that contract for 1 year, and then say, hey, hopefully we'll have a long-term marriage here, but there's no way we can commit to you right now. I think it's obvious that, and if Baker Mayfield takes that as a slap in the face, that's the way it goes. I mean, you just, play, sing for your supper, and we'll see what happens a year from now. I don't know how anybody, Andrew Berry, Jimmy Haslam, Kevin Stefanski, could in any way make a serious argument that, hey, let's sign Baker Mayfield for 5 years at an average of $38 million a year. And look, a lot of this, his play this year might be because of his injury. There's a very good chance that that's possible. But Rich, in the last 6 weeks, last 6 games, 9 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 53% completions. That is what you would want to extend at $1 jillion a year. Leave me out of that one.
Yeah, I guess you need to see what happens with surgery and then move forward. But and if he crushes it next year, then you have the ability to franchise tag him and sign him long term if he wants to stay there. I don't know what the relationship is there, right? Or what are you hearing about Baker with the Browns?
I think the relationship is fine.
Okay.
I don't think that is it, Rich, at all. I think it is that, and I'm sure that there are some things, that bother him about whatever has happened in Cleveland in his 4 years, and there's some things that happen that I'm sure bother the front office. But there's nothing in there to suggest any sort of divorce is imminent. I just don't believe it, and I just simply feel right now that it would be irresponsible for the Browns to pay him like a franchise quarterback, because based on what we've seen, we simply don't know. I think, to me, the crowning blow was the game in Green Bay. That was a game that the Browns should have won, as crazy as it sounds. But Baker Mayfield handed the game to Matt LaFleur on a silver platter. And, when something like that happens, you just have to say, look, there's a chance that this is injury related, but we can't risk the financial future of this team on a guy that we're not sure about.
A few more minutes left with my friend Peter King from NBC Sports, right here on NBC Sports on Peacock, SiriusXM, and also this terrestrial Rich Eisen Show radio outfit. Much obviously made of Big Ben's finale in front of the home folks in Pittsburgh. Did Russell Wilson have an old school 3-touchdown pass game to DK, 4 overall, big time game in front of the 12s as a finale? What do you make of what's the future in Seattle, Peter?
I don't know, Rich. I think, and I hate to keep saying I don't know, but that one is a weird one because last year at this time, Russell Wilson was clearly unhappy about what was going on in Seattle. I can't imagine that whatever they're going to be, 6-11, whatever their record is going to be, I can't imagine this season has soothed Russell Wilson's thought about playing the rest of his career in Seattle. And look, John Schneider is, to me, one of the smartest, most progressive general managers who I've ever covered. I think he's really, really bright. He's had his misses, but they all have. And all I know is that John Schneider will not be afraid whatever the outcome is. He's the guy who, came in and told Pete Carroll after the, I think, 2011 Big Ten championship in Indianapolis when he outdueled Kirk Cousins. I think he came back into the office after that and he told Pete, "We got our quarterback. I mean, we got to go get Russell Wilson in the draft next year." And so he's not going to be afraid. But whatever they decide, I think a lot of it should be decided by a frank conversation, and not one in the media, but a frank conversation between Wilson and both Schneider and Pete Carroll. Is Pete Carroll going to stay? Do the Seahawks want him to stay? Those are the questions that we just don't know the answers to yet.
I know, but if you took your best guess, mine would be Pete stays, Russell doesn't. What would that be? What do you think?
That would be my guess.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of that strategy. I would rather have it be the opposite because, quite frankly, it's a lot harder to find a top quarterback than it is to get a coach who you can win with. But hey, we'll see what happens, and we'll see if we'll see what. First of all, we'll see what Pete Carroll wants. I would assume that Pete Carroll would like to stay. He signed for a long time, whatever, the next 5 years. I would think he would want to stay. And we'll see what Jody Allen really wants to do at the end of this year and then what Russell Wilson wants to do.
In the 3 minutes I have left with you, Peter King, lost amongst everything that we just discussed, and, of course, the passing of the iconic John Madden, was the fact that Dan Reeves passed away.
Yeah.
And I'd love to give you the floor on your favorite Reeves story that might lend folks an insight into his legacy in the NFL.
My favorite Reeves story is not a football one, but my wife worked at a social welfare agency in New Jersey when I lived in Jersey, and Reeves was the coach of the Giants. And Dan Reeves was really, really a good person who was interested in the whole person, both of his players and people who he knew. And I just happened to mention this one day, and he said, "Hey, anything I can ever do to help, that's such a great thing, to be helping youth in Newark and in places like that." And I happened to mention, I said, "Well, what would you think about if we tried to auction off a meal for you and maybe for whoever bids the most for this meal, and the benefits will, the money will go to this agency." And he said, "I'd love to do it. I'll do it." So we did it. We went to a nice Italian place near the stadium, and the bill comes, and he won't let me pay. And he was magnanimous. He was great. He was a great storyteller, talking about the Ice Bowl and everything, and it was great. And 2.5 hours later, he walked out and it paid the check himself. So he's just, a good human being. And Rich, I'll just say this, and I wrote this in my column. I think we at the Hall of Fame, the voters at the Hall of Fame, should really try to push for a little bit of a different way with people like Dan Reeves, because for years it's been, if you're a coach, you're judged as a coach. If you're a player, you're judged as a player. So theoretically, Dick LeBeau could not be judged. He could be judged as one or the other, but not both, which I think is silly. Dick LeBeau's contributions to the NFL go far beyond his 62 interceptions for the Lions, mostly in the 60s, playing next to Night Train Lane. But That's how we were supposed to vote. And same with John Madden. Voted only as a coach. He's one of the biggest contributors, if not the biggest, in the history of the game. So, in my opinion, Reeves, who threw a touchdown, he threw a touchdown pass in the Ice Bowl. I think it's not only that he won Coach of the Year for 3 different franchises, that he led 2 different franchises to the Super Bowl. I think he has had a very worthy Hall of Fame career.
Well said, Peter King. Happy New Year to you and yours. Let's do this very often this next month where all rubber meets road. Thanks for the time.
Sounds great, Rich. Take care.
That's Peter King right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.